what I want to do, Shelby, is I want to read a quote, something that I wrote several years back in a book called Broken Down House, about just the life in a fallen world. And then I want to talk about how the strain of grace, the chord of grace, goes throughout Scripture. The theologians have called that the golden chord. Mm-hmm. And then I'd like just to have a lengthy conversation with you, looking at the various aspects of God's grace toward us. And then I want to think a little bit about grace horizontal, how grace becomes a lifestyle, and grace as a community thing, and how you live a life of grace.
Yeah.
So let me begin with this reading. It's a bit lengthy. Grace is a thunderous, expansive, powerful, and life-altering word. Other than God, there is no more important word that the human mind could consider and the mouth could speak. Grace is the ultimate spiritual game changer. It is the one thing that has the power to change you and everything about you. There is simply nothing comparable to God's grace. Grace explodes into your life in a moment, but will occupy you for all eternity. You could dig into grace every day of your life and not reach the bottom of its power and glory. Grace is the bottomless, treasure-laden mine of divine help. In his famous hymn, John Newton really did choose the best word ever to describe God's grace: amazing. Grace is why God sent his Son into this world to do for us what we could not do for ourselves, to transform us from what we are, sinners separated from him, into what we are becoming, Christ-like and with him forever. Because you are God's child, grace is something you'll never deserve but can always expect. Grace is a tool that God uses to transform you, but it also defines the nature of his relationship to you. Grace will devastate you while giving you peace of heart and rest of soul you have never experienced before. Grace will require you to confess your unworthiness, but will never ever make you feel alone and unloved. Grace will remind you again and again that you have no ability whatsoever to earn God's favor, but it will dispel your fear of not measuring up. Grace will confront you with the reality that you are way less than you thought you were, while it comforts you with the promise that you can be way more than you ever imagined. Grace will call you to examine yourself with honesty and humility, but free you from being paralyzed by fearful introspection. Grace will ask you to admit your catalog of weaknesses while at the same time empowering you with newfound strength. Grace will keep reminding you of what you are not, so will receive God's welcome to what you can now be. Grace will make you sadder than you've ever been in your life and give you cause for joy and celebration that nothing or no one can take away. Grace will blow up your little kingdom of one while it introduces you to a much better, more glorious King. Grace will work to expose your blindness while it gives you eyes to see. Grace will drive you to the end of yourself while it holds you before the promise of fresh starts and new beginnings. Grace is a person, and his name is Jesus.
We could probably end there if you want to. And you wrote that how many years ago? Is it in Broken Down House, you said?
It's over 10, I'm sure, yeah.
Okay.
So
let me just comment on this. That was not only a robust description of the beauty of this word and this lifestyle that we live and this golden thread throughout Scripture, but it's also something that is not purely conceptual for you. It is embodied in who you are and what this ministry is, Paul Tripp Ministries, and the truth of the fact that you not only understand it intellectually and theologically, you live it as well, and that spills out over onto the people you interact with. I've seen it spill out over onto Luello. It's certainly spilled out over onto me, your friends that you've interacted with, people we've had on this podcast before. It's a life-changing element that you not just talk about, but you embody. So I think that that's important to start with, because a lot of us can just understand these things and think these things and not really live out these things. And living out these things and knowing that it's true in your heart is what God cares about, not just knowing them.